and then Terry immediately throws a batarang on him and just it bursts in his face. He goes, ah! And so his face is just covered in boiling hot coffee, Chad. It's hilarious. But he didn't kill him. So it's okay. But he's screaming, hello, I just wanted to thank you for clicking on my video, and I wanted to let you know not only do I create content in my YouTube channel here, Class in a Glass, but I'm also on Twitch where I play single-player games, multiplayer games. I do movie reviews, cartoon reviews, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Also, it would be a big help if you can check out my Patreon, where you can gain access to audio commentaries, reactions, and the ability to submit questions for my podcasts and videocasts. And all that content can be found in the links below. In the meantime, enjoy the video. Now, Chad, we must get to my review tonight. As you know, I've been doing a lot of Batman Beyond, been absolutely loving the series, Chad. It's just, I just have such a renewed appreciation for it, and it sucks because I went to go watch, because I had the DC Universe app, and I was like, oh, all the animated shows are on there, and I know they're all eventually going to go off, right? But that's not for a while. I went on there, and like, I'd say 3/4 of the shows have all been removed already. It's like, fuck, including Batman Beyond. And so it's just going to be comics now. And Batman Beyond, I think eventually will be ported to HBO Max, but it's kind of in a big, it's in limbo right now. And so I had to acquire the episode by other means, chat. And it's like, damn it. But it sucks. So all those shows, chat, even Batman the Animated Series is not on there anymore. It's just like, god damn, I'm so frustrated by that. But thankfully, there are places you can get this. And, I have HBO Max. I imagine that's where they'll eventually port all those shows over. Chat. I know they're doing it for a lot of the live action content, chat, but it just sucks. I was so frustrated because I was enjoying watching it via that app, chat, but that's okay, chat, because we are reviewing definitely one of my favorite episodes of Batman Beyond. Currently, it is my favorite right now from this rewatch I've been doing, chat. It's Batman Beyond Episode 5, Meltdown, chat, featuring the return of one of the best villains, chat, from the animated series. Funny enough, only was in like about 2 episodes of the original animated series, and also had his own movie in Sub-Zero, of course, but Mr. Freeze, chat. He was in Heart of Ice, and then he had one other episode towards the end of Season 2, and then eventually he came back for one other episode in the last season of Batman the Animated Series, just a thrill together, and then the Sub-Zero film. So it's crazy. It's like that character had such an impact on the animated show, chat, yet he's in so few episodes. And, of course, that character being, like I said, chat, is Mr. Freeze. And the animated version of Mr. Freeze, Shed, is by far the best version. If people don't know, I have reviewed, I believe, Heart of Ice on my channel. I eventually have to upload the review to YouTube. It will be uploaded to my YouTube channel, Class in a Glass. But Bruce Timm and his people, chat, they really transformed that character because everyone knows like the origin, Mr. Freeze, his tragic origin, trying to help his wife, chat, put in his cryostasis. She has this very specific blood disease, chat. The only way they can keep her alive is in this cryostasis. Works for a corporation, chat, that basically betrays him and almost murders him, chat, but this experiment goes awry. It saves his life, but then he can never really interact with the outside world again, chat. He has to be in this cryo suit for the rest of his life. It's frozen his very heart, chat, and he wants to take his vengeance upon the corporation, all the people in the world that would ever hurt his wife, Nora Freeze. And that all came from Bruce Timm and his people, chat. Like, that was not in the original comics. Like, in the comics, Mr. Freeze was a guy with an ice gun. That was about it. He was just a mad scientist of an ice gun, chat. No different than, like, Captain Cold or something like that. Thank you, Doctor, for the 5 biddies. Mr. Freeze was revamped because of the cartoons. Exactly. Before that, he was just some dude who freezes shit up in older comics. Exactly. That's all he did. He just froze people. And it was like, but that just showed you the impact, the cultural impact that the animated shows had, chat, the DCAU. I mean, of course, famously created Harley Quinn and all these other cool characters, chat, and the complete revamp of Mr. Freeze was great. They took it for the Batman Robin movie and they bastardized it, chat. They made a shitty version of it. It's too bad how they just took something that Bruce Timm and his people worked on and crafted and brought new life to this villain. And Joel Schumacher says, "I'll take that and make it terrible." So it's very frustrating. But Chat, Mr. Freeze, he went through all different types of iterations throughout the animated series, had his own movie subject, which I think is underrated. It's not as good as Mask the Phantasm. Chat, it's not in my top 5, probably even in my top 10, but I still think it's a really good movie, and it showed that, like, even though Mr. Freeze didn't get a lot of episodes, that's the reason why they gave him this film, because this is such a great and compelling character. We wanted to do more with him. And I thought it was a great success. And eventually, chat, they brought him back in the revamped new Batman and Robin Adventures, which was kind of like the 3rd season of the animated series, when they changed the animation style, which I like the animation. So some stuff I didn't like. I didn't like what they did to Joker or Riddler, stuff like how they changed their looks. But I love what they did to Mr. Freeze, chat, because when we left him off at Sub-Zero, I'm giving you just basically the backstory of Mr. Freeze here at this point, but it's necessary for this episode, chat. You need context for this. When we're introduced to Mr. Freeze again, like at Sub-Zero, his wife was cured. The Wayne Enterprises helped her, and her blood disease was cured. But Mr. Freeze could never go back to her because he was a criminal. But he was happy that she was safe and forever. Chat. At the end of that movie, we see him walking out into like the Arctic again to be alone with like 2 polar bears or something, just to live out the rest of his days. But then, chat, he reappeared in the animated series, and for whatever reason, he seems to be taking his vengeance upon all of Gotham at this point. Tried to basically unleash a weapon of mass destruction and freeze the entire city and just wipe out the entire population. And Bruce is like, "What the fuck are you doing? Why do you want?" Batman's like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this?" And we learn why, chap, because it's some really horrific bits of body horror in his reappearance, chat, in the original, in the new version of the animated series. His body, because of his disease that he has basically rotted away and become useless. And so now he's just like a severed head in a fucking fish globe. And he's just walking around like a little spider, he's like a little ice spider boy, He's an ice spider boy now. And it's horrifying. And he's just like, fuck it, I just want to kill everybody. And, even Batman's like, what about your wife? He's like, fuck my wife, I don't give a shit, I could never have her. She's never going to accept me as a little ice spider boy head. And he tried to destroy all Gotham City. But thankfully, Batman, the Bat family, stopped him, chap. But he was put on ice. Get it? Because he was upset the person. Anyway, he was then basically in prison, chat, for many years. 40 apparently for 40 years, chat, and that's where we see him in this episode, chat. It's like, has Mr. Freeze changed? Does he have a new lease on life? I'll go ahead and show you, chat. But chat, we open up to Gotham Harbor, chat. Terry McGinnis, he's doing some analysis of the Gotham Harbor, chat, the water, and apparently it's very radioactive. He puts a little thermometer thing inside the thing, and it goes, Jesus Christ, you could poach an egg in here. And Bruce is telling him, yeah, this must be where Derek Powers, chat. That asshole, Derek Powers, is dumping all the radioactive goop. Why are you dumping goop in Gotham Harbor, chat? Because he doesn't like to follow the health guidelines laid down by the United States of America, chat, and that's where he's dumping his goop. And so Batman, he sees this truck coming, and sees this boat coming, so he's like, this is where it's going to be. This is the big drop-off point. It's where they're going to drop it off in the harbor. And so he goes ahead, he turns invisible, chat, established in the previous episode. He turns himself invisible, and he goes, he's like on the wall, like watching. He's always watching now. and they pull up. And in the truck, they start unloading all the radioactive goop, and they put the goop on there, and Bruce is like, all right, take him out. And Terry, he starts punching and shit, and he's invisible too. So they're like, oh my God, it's the Invisible Man. So they're horrified what's happening, chat. But eventually he decloaks after he kicks everybody's goddamn ass. And he grabs the one guy who seemed to be like the leader. Oh, it was very funny because the captain, too, of the boat's like, listen, guys, we only have 20 minutes until like the harbor master starts doing his rounds. And Terry, he's got a little bit of Bruce in him. Well, he's got a lot of Bruce in him in hindsight. We'll talk about that someday when we get to Justice League, chat. But like Bruce always like to fuck with somebody right at the last minute they're about to do something. And this guy is taking like a sip of like really hot coffee. He's like, okay. And then Terry immediately throws a batarang on him and it bursts in his face. He goes, ah! And so his face is just covered in boiling hot coffee, chat. It's hilarious. But he didn't kill him. So it's okay. But he's screaming. Takes all these guys out, and then he sees the ringleader, Chad, the guy that came in the main truck. This guy looks like he looks like such a slag, is what is a derogatory term using the series, Chad, is a slag. And he picks up this guy, and he says, tell me who you're working for. He's like about to punch him, and he's like, yeah, I would never tell you. I mean, Terry doesn't need him to tell him because he sees that he has his cell phone on him, Chad. He takes the cell phone, punches the guy in the face, and throws his body into the goop. And then he looks at the first number chat. Then we immediately we do a hard cut chat to Wayne and Powers Enterprises chat, because the two companies have become one in a merger. And Derek Powers, he is proceeding over another acquisition chat, this other company. And this, they've been doing this for hours, Chad. And he loves this shit. He loves this corporate espionage bullshit. Just corporate takeovers. It's his lifeblood. What gives him purpose, Chad. And these people are just fucking exhausted, negotiating back and forth price points and acquisitions. And they're asking their counselor, their lawyers, like, listen, my clients are a little tired. Can we go ahead and talk about this in the morning? And Derek Powers is like, listen, man, the offer's right here. If you're not gonna take it now, all right, we're not gonna hash this out right now, then I remove it, okay? Then you'll get none of my goddamn money. And they're like, shit. And so they keep talking back and forth. But then Derek Powers hears a little ring-a-ding-ding on his cell phone, picks it up. He's like, Powers. And then it's Terry. It's just like, I'm sorry, but it looks like the drop-off's not going to happen tonight. You shouldn't put radioactive goop in Gotham Harbor. And he goes, and he gets really mad, chat. And the sides of his eyes start to wrinkle and crack, chat. And the little glowy bits, the blightness is coming out of him. And his, secretary says, Mr. Powers, you're molting again. He's like, shit. He's like, I'm molting. And so he does a little really douchey thing, chat, where he grabs some sunglasses and puts them on. He wears them on inside. It's like, who would do that, chat? A douche. And so he's like, gentlemen, ladies, you know what? In hindsight, I recognize you're right. It's where this is. We can't negotiate at this ungodly hour. How about we go ahead and meet here first thing in the morning? I'll get coffee and donuts for everyone. Sound good? And he immediately leaves, chat. And meanwhile, we cut back to good old Terry. He's like, I showed him. He was like, come home, kid. But make sure to take that guy out of the goop. And he takes him out of the goop, chat. And he looks like the guy from RoboCop. Is like, help me. It's like, get away from me, man. And he explodes. He pops like a hot water balloon. But then, chat, we cut back to good old Derek Powers. And he's very upset, chat, because basically the skin suit, the flesh suit that he now wears, chat, to cover up his glowing interior, barely works anymore. He's very upset. It barely lasts a day now. He's like, well, apologies, sir, but we believe your radiation is increasing, which then makes the flesh suit less sticky. It makes it less sticky, and it molts faster, and he's very upset by this. He says, well, what the hell are you guys going to do? And they're like, oh, we just don't know. They just don't know, chat. But then, someone does know what to do, and they introduce themselves, chat. It's this woman. It's this very curvaceous woman, and she's like, I have an idea, Mr. Powers. She's like, who are you? And he's like, I'm Dr. Bell, and I like to perform something I've been working on. I'm going to perform an experiment, something I've been working on. Derek Powers, we're going to experiment on me. What is it? And so, ooh, thank you. That's 5 minutes. Dark Man would love to know the flesh on from Derek Powers. He would. It would help him out significantly. You know, he looks rough in that movie, too. Liam Neeson would need it. And he's like, well, what kind of experiment? The scientists are like, oh, don't mind her. She's just a woman. And Derek Powers is like, now listen, I might be an evil son of a bitch, but I'm no sexist. Please, Dr. Bell, what experiment? She says, I want to make you a new body. And he's like, wow, okay, cool. How do you do that? And she's like, well, I would take your DNA, I would grow a little human boy, and I would expedite it. I'd expedite it, and you'd be wonderful. And he says, well, that sounds very involved. I'm a little worried about that. Can we do some experiments, like on other people? And she goes, yes, I was thinking the exact same thing. And he's like, do you have a test subject in mind? She's like, oh, yeah, I got a test subject in mind. And then we cut to Dr. Bell, chat, and she opens up this giant room, and all this mist comes out, and who's in the goddamn middle of the room, chat? Dr. Victor Freeze, Mr. Freeze, and he's saying, like, oh, hello, doctor, I see that you're visiting me once again. Are you enjoying my tomb? I mean, basically he lives in a tomb, chat. And he goes over the fact, like, I've lived here for over 20 goddamn years. I've been this way, like a severed head, for 50 years, all right? I have achieved immortality, the thing that so many men wish they could possibly achieve. But if they were to look upon me, they would be disgusted to behold the sight that they would see. I'm in a living fucking nightmare. And he even says it, yet. This is a children's cartoon. It's a children's cartoon. And he says, the only thing that's been on my mind for all my time that I've been here is death. I want to die. please kill me. And she's like, nah, I want to give you another chance at life. And he's like, how the hell are you going to do that? She's like, let me help you, Victor, okay? There's an incredible mind here, all right? And it would be a shame. It would be a shame to the world for us to lose something like that. And Victor Fries is like, I've trusted many people in my life. I'm going to tell you right now, he's not, I love him pointing even though he can't point, so he's kind of like, let me tell you right now as I'm gesturing with my head. Don't betray me, okay? I'm going to freeze you. Chat, remember, when he says, don't betray me, I'm going to freeze you. And she's like, don't worry, I won't betray you. He's like, I'm going to hold you to it. And then, chat, we see they just a freshly grown Dr. Freeze body's right laying on the slab, chat. And what they're going to do is they're going to transfer his consciousness from the head, the severed head, to that body. And Derek Powers is there. He's like, Mr. Freeze, Dr. Freeze, I would just like to thank you for for participating in this experiment. And Mr. Freeze is like, listen, save your fucking pity and well wishes and shit. I don't care what you have to say, rich man. Dr. Derek Powers is like, Jesus, all right, I'll back off. And Dr. Bell, she's like, listen, what you're about to feel is a little discomfort. There might be a little discomfort and pain when we transfer your consciousness over. Just a little bit of discomfort and pain. He's like, I'm ready for it. And she flips the goddamn switch, and he just goes, ah! Because it's horrible. It's so much pain, Chad. He freaks out. And apparently he screams so hard, Chad, he goes, ah! And he wakes up in the body, Chad. It's like days later, and he wakes up. He's like, but he's no longer the severed head anymore. And Derek Powers is there, and Dr. Bell is there, or Dr. Lake, excuse me. I know I call her Dr. Bell. Dr. Lake, chat, she's there. And they're like, welcome back to the land of the living. And Victor freezes. He's like looking around, shit. He's not in his suit. He hasn't been outside his suit in so long. And he gets out of bed and shit, like moving on two legs, which he hasn't done in nearly 50 years, or 40 years, I guess. And Dr. Lake's like, Dr. Freeze, he's like, no, let's see what he can do. And he goes up to the window, it's a beautiful moment, and he presses, and it's snowing, by the way, it's snowing in Gotham City. So it's like, we're in the middle of winter, and he presses his hand against it, and he goes, it feels cold. He hasn't felt cold in so long, chat, for years. Because like cold for him, he just needs to live. He doesn't have any sense of touch or smell or anything. And he touches it, and he's never felt cold like in 50 goddamn years. He can't believe it. And Derek Powers is impressed, and Dr. Lake, she's impressed too. And so eventually, chat, we cut to Hamilton Hill High School, chat, where Terry is currently walking with Dana, his girlfriend. They just finished class, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go get some food afterwards? Get a fizz," which I imagine is a good old egg cream in dystopian Gotham City, chat. Would you like a dystopian egg cream? Goddamn, I wish I could have one right now. And she's like, I would love to do that, Terry, but looks like your manhandler's over there looking for you, and it's Bruce Wayne. Bruce is just looking. He's like, I hate schools. He's just standing there, chat, as all these kids are walking by. He's like, I hate schools, but these are all potential Robins, though. It's like, no, Bruce, no more Robins. And he's just waiting there with like Ace, his dog. And he goes, shit. And he goes over there, chat. And Bruce is grumpier more so than ever. Last time we seen him this grumpy, chat, it was in episode 1 and 2. And he walks over to him. He's like, what's up? And he's like, did you see the morning news? And Terry's like, no. And Bruce hands him his iPad, which I'm cool that they predicted the iPad chat. In this series, and he looks it over, chat, and it's Derek Powers making a speech and presenting Dr. Freeze, saying like, this is one of our new medical procedures that we are currently doing, and we Mr. Dr. Freeze, and he almost says Mr. Freeze, Dr. Freeze agreed to participate, and he is a new man, okay? He's ready to start a new lease on life. He is paid for his crimes back then, and he's ready to show Gotham the kind of citizen that he can be. He can be Gotham's favorite son, right? And Terry's just like, wow, that's pretty cool. And Bruce is like, this is fucking bullshit. I love it. Bruce is like, I don't trust this frosty motherfucker for a second. And Terry's like, well, he seems much better now. He's just like, I don't give a shit. I know him. And he's like, you're going to fucking investigate him. Terry's just like, I kind of feel uncomfortable about this. He seems to be okay. He's like, what did I tell you? You're going to do what I say you to do, okay? You're going to all go ahead and watch him. And Bruce is like, I fought him too many times, and the only thing he desires ever in life is revenge. I just love it. Yeah, start a new life killing bitches, pretty much. And he's like, you're going to watch it for me. That's when you're starting today. He's like, all right, okay, Bruce. And then, we cut to like a subway station where we see like this little kitty cat. It's like hopping around and shit. It's like, oh no, it's gonna jump in front of a train. Oh no. Darcy's like, what the fuck is this frosty motherfucker's up to something pretty much. Doesn't trust him. And so, this little cat is about to jump in front of the subway car. It's like, it's about to get smushed, Chad. It'll be like a gnat on a windshield. But Dr. Freeze, Chad, he grabs, and Mr. Freeze grabs, and he's pets into the cat's like, yay! And all the people are like, he saved the cat. He's wonderful. Thank you! But there goes Mr. Grin. If they gave a prize for being mean, the winner would be him. Thank you, Armored Saint. Welcome to stream. It's been a hot minute. How you doing? Will you ever play Among Us again? Can I join you, sir? We will definitely play Among Us again. I'm working on a few kinks in it. I'm laying down some rules and things for the for the game. Some policies for people to follow. But yes, I'll definitely be playing Among Us in the future. Not tonight. But yeah, you could definitely join. I want to have as many people join as possible. No question whatsoever. Just trying to figure some things out. I got some feedback from Josh today. I've not had the opportunity to look at it yet. For those of you who, by the way, I'll go back to the review right now, but please go ahead and check out my Discord chat under Project Lazarus to give me some feedback. It would be really appreciated. But, Ellen Zodi, welcome to you. Hope you're doing very well. Good to see you. But we see Terry, he's watching, he's like, oh yeah, seems like a terrible super villain. What a criminal. And Bruce is just sitting there going, I don't trust. He could save 1 million fucking cats in Gotham. I never trust him. I would never trust him. Keep watching. Terry's like, okay. And Terry follows him the entire day. And we see that apparently Dr. Freeze Shed, entered into a relationship with Dr. Lake, chat. With good old Dr. Lake. And they're smooching all the time and things. And it's like Terry's like, oh, this is hot. And Bruce is like, I don't trust him. And eventually they're going to a graveyard. What are they going to a graveyard? Like, when I first saw this episode, I was like, oh my God, they're going to go to his wife's grave, Nora Freeze Chat. But no, it's actually kind of even more morbid and creepy. And they stop at the grave chat. It says Freeze. I'm like, oh, it's going to say Nora. It says Victor Freeze. And Dr. Lake is like, yeah, I didn't know what to do with your severed head. So he just buried it here. And he goes, you know what? This is the best you could have done for it, because that life, it probably didn't deserve something like this, something quiet like this, but at least it's laid to rest and a new life can begin. She goes, yeah, hot and sexy, sweaty life. And then they start smooching again. And Terry is like, are you seeing this, Bruce? He's like, I'm seeing the hot and sexy smooches, but I don't trust them. And Terry's like, all right. And then Terry, he looks to the side chat, and he sees this. I love it. It's in broad fucking daylight, but this guy looking like a chubby Sam Fisher, chat. With the whole suit on, got the goggles and everything, and a huge fucking assault rifle. And Terry's like, that seems a little odd. And he notices the guy's pointing directly at Mr. Freeze, Shad, and Dr. Bell. And he fucking dives bomb and goes, watch out! And he pushes them out of the way, Chad, as this guy just starts blasting. He starts blasting, Chad. And Terry's like, holy shit. And this guy tries to get going, tries to start to run off. Terry he turns around to shoot. Terry throws the battery at him, gun blows up. And the guy keeps going. He takes out his little batarang, I don't know, like grappling hook thing. He wraps around the guy's legs and falls down. Boom, whacks himself on the goddamn tombstone, sheds blood. And he's like, it looks disgusting. But then Mr. Freeze, he wanders over, along with Dr. Lake and Terry McGinnis. He grabs the guy. He says, this guy's going to jail. And, the guy takes off his mask and he's crying. He's just crying. And he's like, why'd you stop me? Why'd you stop me? He has to die. That monster has to die. And this guy looks like he's in his 40s, could be in his 50s, chat, for all we know. And he's pointing at Mr. Freeze, and Mr. Freeze is like, what did I do to you? What did I do? He's like, you killed my whole family. You froze them years ago, and they've been gone forever. They've been gone. It's like he killed them, Chad, during the events of the original Batman animated series. And I love this. And we see this guy who was probably a child during that time. And he's lived, it's a great moment. He's lived with this anger and hatred and fear of this man. And he wanted to kill him. He's like, this guy fucking comes back, gets a new lease on life. And it's an insult to me and my family who he killed years ago. And Mr. Freeze looks at the man as he's bleeding and crying. And he gets down on his knees and he says, there's nothing I could say that could make up for the loss of your family when I took them from you. I'm sorry. I know you can never forgive me. I'm so sorry, but I promise you, I'm going to I'm going to make an attempt to make things right. I'm going to give back to the people of Gotham for everything I took from them. I'm sorry. And Terry's just like, I'm going to take him. And he actually says, no, Batman, please, no. I love that he calls Terry Batman. He doesn't say whoever you are. Like, you know, I just love that. And he says, no, please, Batman, let him go. I've taken enough from him. And the guy just is like, he just leaves. Because he has nothing to say to Mr. Freeze. But it's so confusing. And Terry... he's just like, Jesus Christ, this is so messed up. And he goes back to Bruce, and he's like, okay, Bruce, after that, do you believe him? And Bruce is like, nope, I do not believe him. And he's like, Bruce, come on, the guy, he's trying to ask for forgiveness, okay? He's going on fucking talk shows. That's another thing we cut to, chat, because Bruce and Terry watching Mr. Freeze on a talk show, and apparently, chat, a lot of Mr. Freeze's legitimate assets, chat, when he went to prison, they were put in a blind trust. And they accumulated interest for decades and decades. And now he owns a little over $500 million, chat. And he's establishing a foundation called the Nora Freeze Foundation, named after his late wife, which I'm like, oh my God. Which I love it. So it's confirmed that Nora Freeze is dead. It's very sad. Thank you, Batman, for the 5 minutes. Even if there's a 1% chance. Fuck him. Terry, you gotta believe him now, Bruce. Bruce is, no. But I mean, he's right in the end, chat. We'll get to that point. Thank you, Batch. Thank you, Dark Side of the 5 minutes. It's a fantastic episode, chat. Highly recommend checking it out. But yeah, he's going to start a charity, and he's going to give back to the city, chat. He's starting his own company again. It's just for the benefit of the needy and the downtrodden and anyone else he's ever harmed in the past, chat, in Gotham. It's like, wow, what a great guy. And Bruce is like, fuck this guy. I don't trust him. Terry's like, what's going to convince you that he's just, listen, it's like my mom said, he's just trying to put his house in order, okay? And Bruce is like, there's a cold fucking draft in that goddamn house. I don't trust him, and you shouldn't either, okay? And Terry's just like, all right. Whatever you say, Bruce. And we cut back to the studio, chat. We just finished doing this interview, and he's fucking sweating, chat. He's sweating profusely. And he's like, Jesus Christ, it's hot in here. And the interview is just like, it's the lights. And they say that, you know, that we don't suffer for our work. And eventually he leaves the studio, chat. He goes outside. And by the way, it's winter in Gotham City, and he's still sweating. He takes off his jacket, chat. He sits down on a bench, and he can't stop. He's mopping his brow. It's just, water's just coming off him, chat. And eventually it starts snowing, and he can't feel the cold. He can't feel the snow. And he's like, oh my God. And they realize that when they did the transfer, chat, apparently was on such a specific molecular level, the disease also followed through into his new body. And so at this point, we see Dr. Lake, chat. She has Mr. Freeze in this room, kind of where they're monitoring him, chat. It's 32 degrees in there, and he's still profusely sweating. Thank you, Mr. Grinch. You really are here. Thank you. Who is this new follower, chat? This new Grinch, this new Huckleberry, if you will. Let me go ahead and thank them. Joe Halcyon 92. Joe Halcyon 92, thank you. Welcome to streaming my new Huckleberry and my new Grinch. And we like Grinches here. Hope you're doing very well. Currently, we're reviewing Batman Beyond Episode 5 Meltdown, featuring the return of Mr. Freeze. Hey, Chris, thanks for following me on Twitch. Yeah, of course, man. We appreciate it. No, happy to do so. Happy to do so, and happy to have you here. Hope you're doing very well today. No, good to see you. Very good to see you. Just about to finish. Almost know my review chat. We're getting to the tragic end, Sally. The tragic end chat. And so they have Mr. Freeze. He's in this room, chat. He's fucking sweating. And Dr. Lake, she goes ahead and she calls up Derek Powers. And she goes, listen, it looks like the transfer, it transferred on a molecular level. His body is degrading much like it did back in the original animated series. And he's going, fuck, because he's upset, chat, because he wants to do the same thing. But his disease will also follow him probably to his new body. And he's just like, well, geez, what can we do? And she's like, well, I mean, there are several things. And he's like, what about a biopsy? Maybe we can understand, if we look at his internal organs, maybe we could prevent the process and the disease from coming into the new body. And she's like, I can do that, but it will kill him. And he's like, do what you have to do. And he hangs up. She's like, all right, I gotta kill him. So they're gonna fucking kill him and perform an autopsy, chat, dissect him. And so she goes on, and plus she's in a relationship with Victor and everything, but it's like, how much of that was actually real? And she goes over the wall, And he's asking her for Stephanie, and like he can barely breathe now, Chat. She goes to the wall and she turns that 32 degrees to fucking 90, Chat, to 100 degrees. He's like, Stephanie, Stephanie. He's like, he can't even breathe anymore. He's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And she's just staring at him, Chat, look like a kid with a fucking ant with a magnifying glass, just burning, like no emotion in her eyes. And he's starting to realize, like, oh my God, I mean nothing to her, and he's slowly dying in there. She's like, Stephanie, Stephanie. And he's like about to collapse, Chat. She's like still looking at me. And then he fucking grabs the goddamn chair. This huge fucking chair he was sitting on, Chat, and just goes, oh, and just smashes through the window. And she's like, Victor, wait. And he just looks at her, Chat, just like, oh, you fucked up, bitch. What did I tell you? What did I tell you? If you betray me, I will freeze you. And he runs away to just fucking naked. Just fucking naked, does the Tom Cruise run out into Gotham City. It's like, that's not good. And then, Bruce, he calls up, fucking Bruce calls up Terry. He's like, I told you, he escaped. And Terry's like, shit, this isn't good. And so Terry spends all of his time going to all these specific locations in Gotham City, like these cryo plants, meat lockers, Chat, anywhere where it's really, really cold for Victor Fries. Meanwhile, we cut to kind of like the main factory, Chat. It's the hub of Wayne Enterprise, where they do all sorts of experiments, Chat, and experiment on like new types of technology and things. And Derek Powers and Dr. Lake, they've been doing the same thing, Chat. They've been trying to look for Freeze, but they can't find him anywhere. Thank you, Darkseid with 5 minis. Once a frosty motherfucker, always a frosty motherfucker. Exactly. No question. Black Knight, welcome to the show. Oh, no, not the Tom Cruise one. The Tom Cruise run, Martin Lawrence. Indeed. T-Mac, thank you for the 5 minutes. All this happened in 22 minutes, man. It's incredible. It's a goddamn amazing episode. And so Derek Powers was asking Dr. Lake, it's like, okay, have you checked all these locations, like even our own cryo labs? He's like, he's not there. And he's like, where the fuck could he have possibly gone? And she's like, listen, he's probably still somewhere in the city. Most likely, he's going to die. He's like, how do you know? He's like, Derek, there's a heat wave going on in Gotham right now. It's going to be nearly 70 degrees. While they're walking through the facility, Chat, all of a sudden, the whole goddamn complex starts shaking like it's a fucking earthquake. And Derek Powers is like, what is that? And all of a sudden, Chat, these giant icebergs start, just giant columns of ice just start sprouting from underneath the ground and shit. And Terry, who's on the outside, like looking at the complex, Chat, he just has this such disappointment in his voice. He's like, Victor, no. And he goes towards the facility, Chat. Meanwhile, we cut. And these icebergs are just fucking impaling people, Chat, just launching them outside the complex just to die and shit. It's a goddamn massacre. And Dr. Lake and Derek Powers, they're running for their goddamn life, trying to go to the exit, Chat. Then boom! Big ice explosion. And who rises up from beneath the subterranean ground, Chat? Mr. Freeze, Chat. No longer Victor Freeze, no longer Dr. Freeze. He is Mr. Freeze, complete with a new goddamn suit. And they're like, Victor, how the hell did you get this? And apparently, Chat, what he's wearing is a suit he created all the way back to the animated series, but he never got to use, Chat. He's like, I've kept this in cold storage. He's like, ice puns, and he freezes everybody. By the way, I want to give a shout out to the actor who voices Mr. Freeze here. They brought back the original voice actor from the animated series, Chat. Michael Ansara. He voiced him in all the episodes, the original series, and Sub-Zero, and here, Chat. Did such a great goddamn job. The late, great Michael Ansara, Chat. He passed away in 2013. Had a hell of a career, Chat, in television, radio, and film, and animation. I mean, the freeze rises. It does. The last and final act of Mr. Freeze. Very much so, Devin. Well, thank you again, Darkseid, with the 5 biddies. And so Derek's like, listen, Victor, we can help you, okay? We don't want to hurt you. And he's just like, he's like, what you've done previously tells me otherwise, Chat. And he looks directly at fucking Dr. Lake. She goes, woo! And she fucking takes off running. And he's like, nah, where the hell are you going? And Derek Powers, he follows her, Chat, and eventually he manages to cut Stephanie, Dr. Lake, and Derek Powers off from each other, and he's about to blast him, about to freeze his ass, and Dr. Lake, she's like, wait, Victor, please, Victor, we don't want to hurt you, okay? We just want to help you. And he's like distracted, and Derek Powers is like, all right, you tell him whatever you want, bitch, I'm getting out of here, and he fucking runs, Chat, and Victor Freeze sees this, and he freezes his ass, he blasts him, and Derek Powers is like, ah! He's just frozen in place, shit. So it's like, He's like, oh shit, you gotta unfreeze them or they're gonna die. And then she's like, oh my God. And he points his giant, by the way, he doesn't have a freeze gun anymore, chat. It's like he has these giant cannons on his arms. And or maybe it's like his hands are like the freeze beams. And he comes out and he corners her in a corner, chat. And he goes, you might feel some pain or discomfort, which is what she said to him when he transferred his conscience over to his new body. And he fucking kills her, chat. Freezes her so much. And then bam! Backhands the statue, chat, and she bursts. She explodes into frozen meat chunks. It's like, she is the real villain, and it was just like, holy shit, he is not fucking around anymore. And then meanwhile, chat, he goes around the rest of the facility. He's going to destroy the entire complex, chat, and destroy it. So, like, this will never happen again. But he's going to kill hundreds, if not thousands, of innocent employees that work there. They know nothing about this shit. They're just doing their goddamn job, shit. They don't know anything about this. And he's going to destroy it all, chat. Meanwhile, we cut back to the ironic, yeah, exactly. Sub-Zero fatality. So, yep, exactly like that. But then we cut back to Derek Powers, chat, and he's still alive because of his radiation. He bursts out of the fucking statue because he's melting it with his radiation powers. But meanwhile, chat, we cut back to Mr. Freeze, and he's blasting the facility, chat, gonna make sure that it goes fucking nuclear. But then fucking Terry shows up, and he's like, Freeze, what are you doing? You're just gonna cause more pain. And he's just like, more pain has been caused to me, and he's fucking blasting him and shit. He's like, you're gonna kill thousands of innocent people, okay? If you blow up the facility, you'll die too. And Mr. Freeze says, yes, that's the point. He wants to die. He even says, like, once this facility goes, I go. Everything ends. All I've ever thought about is death, and I can finally die. So this is a suicide mission for him, Chad. He wants to blow up this facility, take out all these people so they don't do something like this again, or in his mind don't do something like this again. And Terry's just fighting Mr. Freeze. But it's, again, Mr. Freeze's suit. And Terry's never fought someone as powerful as Mr. Freeze before, so it's very difficult for him. And Bruce is like giving him advice, like, listen, you got to stay back from him. He's got those goddamn guns. I used to fight against him back in the day. Now he's got two of them. Keep your distance, throw batarangs. Do you have chicken soup? Do you have a thermos filled of chicken soup? I should have packed it with you. That's what Alfred gave me. That's how I defeated him. He's like, you defeat him with chicken soup? It was a long time ago. It was a different time. He doesn't have chicken soup, though, chat, so it's rough. And right before Mr. Freeze, he freezes Terry to the wall, and he's like, he also told Batman, he's like, listen, you can get out of here. I want you to escape. You seem like a good person. Like, I don't know, you're not the Batman I knew, but you're a good guy. You're the only one who cares. Get out of here. And he's like, no. And he's like, all right, then I fucking froze you to the wall. And he's just about to, like, now we're both going to die. But then all of a sudden, chat, who fucking comes up behind him? Chat, Blight, Derek Powers. And he fucking blasts him with radiation. And he grabs his suit and slowly starts melting it with his radioactive heat powers. And Victor Freeze is going, ah! He's like, you feel that, don't you? Through all the ice, through all that hardware, you feel the burn, baby. And Batman's like, what the fuck is that? Hey, get up to the fight. Chicken soup will help fight off the cold you get after the fight. It's true. It's true. And so, Terry frees himself from the ice. And he throws a battering and Blight gets him off of Freeze. And he goes, who the fuck are you? And he goes, you can call me Blight. And he's like, doesn't want to reveal that it's Derek Powers. And they start fighting. And Terry's never fought someone like this before. This is actually the first meeting between Blight and, well, I didn't even know, Batman and Derek Powers have squared off against one another, chat. Not in this form, not in his Blight radioactive form. And so Terry's unprepared for this. Bruce even saying, like, listen, I'm noticing that the radiation spike is incredible. The suit can protect you a bit, but it's not built for something like this. So make sure to keep your goddamn distance. And so Terry's just throwing batarangs at him and using his grappling hook and everything, chat. But Blight's still getting closer, still trying to basically cook Terry from the inside. From the outside, Chad. It's fucking horrifying. I can get his hands on him. But thankfully, Chad, Mr. Freeze, who's just been recovering from the fight, he's like, Blight! And Blight turns around and goes, what? And Mr. Freeze just ice blasts him so goddamn hard, Chad, right in the face. He goes out of the fucking building, soaring across the city, and lands in Gotham Central Park, right in the goddamn middle of the icy lake. And it's like, shit. And then while it's all going on, chat, Terry goes over to Mr. Freeze, but the whole complex starts going down and everything. And he's like, Freeze, I got to get you out of here. And Freeze is like, leave me here, leave me. You're the only one who cares. All right, let me die. And he's like, Freeze. And Freeze he just creates an ice wall between himself and Batman and just lets all these giant, basically, goddamn, what is it, chat? Icicles just fall on top of him, chat. Just fall on top of him and just crushing him. And Terry just runs out of there, chat. Meanwhile, we cut back to Blight, who crawls out of the lake, and you see some Wayne Powers vehicles stop by and trying to pick him up, and they go, oh, we saw you on the scanner, sir, although it wouldn't have been difficult to see you since, you give off that glow. And you have this one guy who says, also, sir, we brought you this blankets in case you were cold. And he just stares at both of them and he goes, you guys are such idiots. and he walks back into the hovercraft. Meanwhile, chat, we cut back to, it's right outside the complex, chat, like about a mile away, and Terry and Bruce are surveying the destruction from this precipice on top of this building. And Terry's like, well, it looks like you were right, Bruce, the whole time about Mr. Freeze. And Bruce turns to him and goes, yeah, I know, and walks away. No, what he says is actually quite funny. It's actually... what he does say, Chad, is like, we were both right. We were both right. He wanted to be a better person, but the circumstances that he was in, what happened with him, he just lived a very tragic life, and he's at rest now. He's at rest now. But that's what it should have been. He just says, I know, and just walks away, Chad. But it's a great episode. It's an incredibly tragic end to this character that Bruce Timm and Paul Dini and so many other people really recreated for the show. Like so many things sadly in DCAU, chat, they kind of end very sadly. Very melancholy, chat. Like Mr. Freeze is one of the most tragic villains in the entirety of this universe that they crafted, both from his origin until he finally died, chat. He just realized, like, I've hurt so many people. Everything that I've had is just gone. I just want to die. Let me die. And he dies. And he does it. He gets what he always wanted, shit. He wanted to die. So it was very sad. Super Tupac, thank you for generosity. Thank you for the $5 generosity. Happy birthday, Nia Brownie. Let's get drunk, margarita, Miami. Let's do it. Let's drink the margaritas. But there you go, chat. I hope you enjoyed my review, my scene by scene breakdown, chat, for Batman Beyond Episode 5 Meltdown, chat. Great episode. Highly recommend. I'm just dancing. What happened to Catwoman? You know what? Patricia Graphics, there was supposed to be another Batman Beyond movie that was supposed to explore what happened to Catwoman, but it never went into production. They wrote a script and everything, but they just didn't do it, which is too goddamn sad. It was supposed to act as a sequel to Return of the Joker. Maybe we'll get it someday. Yeah. Thank you, Other McCoy. Thank you, guys. I'm glad you guys enjoyed the review. A man enters Mr. Freeze and leaves Mr. Freed. He did. Yes, he did indeed. He freed himself from his icy domain, chat. Yeah, I'm on my first margarita. Nice. Very good. Yeah, no, it's a wonderful episode, chat. All the episodes that feature the returning Batman villains are fantastic. Everything from the first one of Mr. Freeze, later to Bane. Ra's al Ghul is great, and of course Joker. That one's also amazing, chat. So much goddamn. And all of this, again, it was brought up before by T-Mac. All of this is in 22 minutes. All of this. And what makes it so much better, chat, is that context, having seen the original animated series and the movie. It's just a wonderful, it's a wonderful and just tragic story. I think you can watch all these episodes back to back and have all the full context, chat. You can watch it as one movie. It can be the Mr. Freeze story. It'd be perfect. Yeah. So I'm glad you guys enjoyed that. I'm going to take a brief break, chat. Just going to go ahead and refill my beverage, and I'll come back. I'll sing those songs I'm obligated to sing, chat.